Good morning or good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to a FinTech Nexus webinar sponsored by Basis Technology. My name is Peter Renton. I'm chairman and co-founder of FinTech Nexus, formerly called Lend It FinTech, but we have had a rebrand here just last month. Today we have a really interesting conversation. We are going to be talking about AI name matching, reducing errors and risk. And that is something, we have two experts here with us today, which is really going to be a bit of a type of a case study. So you can see in the real world how this technology is working and how it is making an improvement in efficiency. So let's maybe just kick it off with a couple of introductions, and then we do have a slideshow that we're going to be sharing, and obviously, as always, audience, you can ask a question at any time. Please use the Q&A button when you do that. So with that, Vamsi, why don't we start with you and just do a quick intro about yourself and what you do at Basis Technology.
Great, thanks, Peter. Hi, everyone. My name is Vamsi Kaduru. I'm the director of identity analytics here at Basis. I'm responsible for our name matching products. Prior to Basis, I was a co-founder of Quantiplug, which was an AML KYC startup.
Okay, and Jan?
Welcome, everybody. My name is Jan. I'm working at KOHO from 3.5 years now, and I'm a senior manager on the payment side at KOHO.
Okay, let's kick it off then. I'm going to share my screen again, and we're going to go through a slideshow. Whoops, I didn't have it. There we go. Okay, so Jan, are you kicking us off here?
Yeah, I can start. Cool. So welcome, everybody. So we will talk about reducing error and risk in financial payment with AI name matching. So it's a use case that we implement on our side last year, actually, and we will go deeper on that. Before talking about that, I want just to share and explain what is KOHO. So if you're going to the next slide, so KOHO is a Canadian startup. Our goal is to help Canadian budget, spend and save smarter. We offer an everyday spending and saving account, a reloadable prepaid MasterCard, and an innovative app that all work together to make a day-to-day finance smart and stress-free for Canadian people. I guess you have the equivalent of this fintech in Canada with in USA with Chime, for example. So globally, it's pretty straightforward. Our customers can install our app from the Apple Store or Google Store, and then they will need to create an account on the application in a couple of minutes. We need to validate the identity. They can also start from the website. We also have a website, and you can create your first account on the website. When you have the application, everything is focused on user experience. And globally, what we are looking for is like an easy way for you to load money inside the application and then use your MasterCard, a prepaid card. So today, as I say, we are talking here about a prepaid MasterCard. That means that by default, you need to load money inside our application, KOHO. And to do that, we have a multiple way. The first one is we implemented a Stripe in our application, and our customer can load money with a Stripe directly from any debit card, MasterCard or Visa. And when you load the money, you're going to the Visa network, you load your money, and then after you can spend your money with your card. The second way of loading money is with your friends and KOHO customer, where you can do what you are calling a K2K transfer. That is like KOHO to KOHO. So if you want to send some money to your friends, you can just send a couple of bucks to them directly, and it will be in real time. And the last big part on loading money at KOHO is by your payroll. You can configure your payroll every month to go to our KOHO account. or it's Interact e-transfers. Interact e-transfers, so Interact is a Canadian company, and usually all the Canadian, a big part of the Canadian are using e-transfers to load and send money. What this looks like, it's you're going to your bank account, any bank account, and you can send an email to someone that you want to send some money, by example. You specify the amount, and this email will go with the Interact service to your to the receiver, and the receiver will get an email, click on it, and get their money loaded directly. This is a huge system in Canada because I guess like yeah, it's a huge system. Yeah, on our side, if
So
you're going
Jan,
to
I just want to be clear about the Payments Canada piece, the e-transfer, because I mean, obviously that we don't have that in the US here. Is this sort of the equivalent of like an ACH type transfer that where you just go from bank to bank? Is that what you're talking about here?
It's yes, I think it's very close, except that you have like an intermediate between both that is Interact. Then between we just need to be careful. Like Payment Canada is for pre-authorization credit and pre-authorization debit. So everything that touches to the payroll, it's a specific entity in Canada, and Interact is only for e-transfers.
Got it.
And
okay.
which of the three methods of loading money is most common? Which do you see the most of?
Yes. So on our side, if you're going to the next line, the 90% of our loads are coming from e-transfers and pre-authorized credit and debit. So by example, for e-transfers, we are getting around 40K of e-transfers per day. And for pre-authorized debit and credit, it's a couple of Ks. At KOHO, I'm talking about KOHO, yeah, of course.
Got it.
Why we are talking about that actually? So 90% are coming from Interact transfers or your payroll. Why is kind of easy, like with Interact, like loading money is very straightforward and it's really fast. Like you can send money to your friends or to anybody in a less of a couple of minutes. It's very user friendly. You can also do that by a phone number, for example. So if you can send, if you want, you can send some money. You will get an SMS. You will click on the link and get your money deposit. And the other one, it's a payroll direct deposit, where it's with your company, where you just need to set up your payroll to go to the KOHO account. So as I told you before, like we are getting a lot of transfers and adding pay per day. And on this point, there is a risk associated with incorrect name matching. So this is the next slide. We are moving a lot of money every day, and KOHO is responsible for all the funds that we depose on our application. So this is, by example, why first, when the user is registering, we check his identity, and we have something called KYC, Know Your Customer, that we implemented on our side with different tools. And globally, what we are looking also, it's like a way of checking the name of the person that sent money inside our application to be sure that they're matching together with what we have on our identity system, to be sure that we can be responsible for these funds. What we want here is improve our quality in terms of risk associated, because every time that the name matching, every time that, let me be more clear actually. So as you are responsible for the funds, we are also responsible from where the funds are coming inside our application. Where it starts to be a little tricky is, by example, if you configure your payroll with your company, the name that will be on the payroll files, by example, will be maybe different than the name that you created, by example, on our application. And we are trying to match the two identities to be sure that we can be responsible for these funds and don't get any issues there. So this is why we were using Rosette, and it's why we are trying to have a better response to incorrect name matching.
Great, and that's a good segue into what does Basis and Rosette offer. So Rosette Names Indexer is delivering industry-leading accuracy and explainable matches through our names management product. And so with Rosette, you're going to get fewer mismatches and fewer false positives, while matching people, locations, organizations that could be obscured by misspellings, aliases, typos, initials, or even different languages. So how does it work? Next slide, Peter. So step one is identifying the candidate list. So for every name or for every query that you're putting in, we want to check against the watch list or any list that you have of the various identities to identify what are my initial candidates going to look like. Now, this first step is a very fast, high recall step where we're just trying to identify every potential name that could be a match to the entity or individual or organization that you're checking against. After that is where the magic starts. Next slide, Peter. Rosette's able to consider 13 different variations or parts of a name when identifying if something should be a match or not a match. Phonetic similarity, do two names sound the same? Are they, Peter, next slide. Is there a spelling difference in transliteration? Is it a known nickname of each other? Is there a missed space or hyphen that's in one name and not the other? Are the titles the same? Or is it the same name across multiple different scripts? Is it a semantically similar name? Is it truncated? Are they in different orders? Each of these different variations is its own model in Rosette that we consider when identifying if something should be a match or not a match. And each of these work together to identify the highest ranked matches versus your lowest ranked matches. Now, next slide. And when we determine from each candidate list and your query, the pairwise comparisons, we're essentially returning a rank list of all the candidates and their score and which model impacted their score in determining whether it's a match or not. And this level of explainability is important for us because there might be different situations where two names might not be readily apparent that they should be a match, but because we're able to identify saying this specific model, whether that was our phonetic score or our gender model or a nickname model, it kind of gives you more clarity into why something was determined to be a match or not a match. And one of the things we wanted to consider with this capability was allowing our customers to have the flexibility to fine tune their thresholds in determining what they wanted our system to return as a match would look like. So if you go to the next slide, you'll notice that for everything in the candidate list, we've returned a score and then each individual explanation for that score and which was a positive impact and which was a negative impact on that match. And this is a very powerful feature because it ensures that you're never missing any matches on your list, and you're also able to identify potential things that might be outside your threshold range and then fine tune and configure that to give you better results in your process end to end. So how does text analytics help? Jan, I'm going to pass it back to you.
Thanks. So usually at KOHO, what we are doing is we need to control this name every time that you are getting interact e-transfers or a authorized credit or debit. So what we did is we created a specific service where the funds are going before going to your KOHO account. And there are a couple of animation, I guess. Beautiful animation. So we created what we're calling like the KOHO risk service. And on this service, we will take the names that we have from the files, by example, that we are getting from Payment Canada or from an email from Interact Transfer. And we will try to match it directly with our customers. And the KOHO risk service, it's really simple. The goal is to compare the name of the customer from our partner with the name we have at KOHO. And we can have only two results if you're going to the next slide. The first path is the name are the same. on this case, we will load the fonts automatically on the application. And the path two, it's like the name are different and the fonts are held for now. What this means exactly in terms of experience, for example, that means that let's say that some of you are trying to load like $5,000 on your KOHO account. If the name are not matching, for example, for the payroll, the $5,000 will be held for now, and will need to be reviewed manually by someone on our company. This can generate a lot of frustration because you're not getting the funds. You want to use the funds now because everything is important right now, and it's also generate like a scary feeling. Where are my money? Where is my money? What's going on if I lost it, or I can get it back? So this is also why it's really important that everything need to go to the first path. Like name should be the same or match, and the funds are loaded right away. If the funds are held, you really have like a manual person that will review it today. This is a couple of examples with Peter Renton. So by example, so if Peter created like a KOHO account, and his first name, last name is Peter and Renton. But the information from Payment Canada can come by different ways. The first time it can be Peter Renton. In this case, it should match. It can be Peter and maybe Peter has a middle name, Renton. It can be Mr. Peter. It can be Mr. Renton. It can be Peter P or Renton P or whatever. And this is where the difficulty is today. And this is why we were using Rosette, because before that we were using a specific, a custom name matching system. I'm a little sad. I didn't get like a screenshot. I didn't found the code, but it was like kind of 50 different regex, one after one, to try to match and try to find the good answer. The finality, it's like a lot of fonts were old actually on the application. Yeah.
So just on that. So say you sort of given the different ways that you can you match the name, but like I mentioned, if you just like Peter R, there's got to be dozens of Peter R's in the KOHO database. I mean, you can't match if you don't have enough information, right? Does this go to a human if it looks like, obviously they're, you can tell, I can see a lot of this, you'd be very, very confident. But if you've got Peter R as what has been sent, what do you do? What do you do with that?
Yeah, correct. So first we will calculate a score with Rosette. So we'll take the name that you have on KOHO and the names that you got. So Peter R. The Rosette name matching system will generate a score, and in function of the score, we will take the decision. If it's old and if it's not matching, we are pausing the fonts, and we created a specific administration, a specific like admin portal, where some people from a risk team will go and review all of these name matchings that are not matching, and they will approve it if it makes sense, or reject it. So by example, in your example, Peter Renton and Peter R, they will check, by example, on our system if it makes sense, if you're safe, if what was the score on your KYC when you created our account. Did this user already has some fraud by the past? And they will validate a couple of things. Sometimes call the partner, call the customer to be sure that it's a good person. And then after they will release the funds, and the fund will go to KOHO.
And I think, Peter, adding on to that, one of the things that Rosette also supports is for us to check against additional fields besides the name. So if you have address or PII information associated with that individual, that can also be used in kind of enhancing your match scores and identifying the differences between your Peter R1 and the Peter R2, for example.
Right. And I presume once you've got it, obviously if someone sends something the same next time, you've learned from how it's done, right? You don't have to go and do this checking.
Yeah,
that's
correct.
true. That's correct. And also on our side, like every time that, when we validate like once the name matches the name, that the name are matching, we are keeping it on our side. And the next time the forms will be released faster because it should be totally automatic too.
And I think one thing I want to highlight there, Peter, and this kind of ties into why name matching is so difficult and where AI kind of really makes an impact, is if a human were to have to go through and identify all the different elements of, these hundreds of different Peters that exist, the amount of time that they're investing in doing this step, the amount of human errors that can occur is very, very high. But if you're able to leverage AI to do this, you're able to identify all the potential candidates and matches. And as you mentioned earlier, learn from each individual action that you're taking. So the system just gets more intelligent over time.
Right, that makes sense. Yeah.
I guess so. There is yes, why we choose Rosette. So we started this project last year, and we explored different solutions. On our side, we don't really want at KOHO to manage our own service and service from different companies on our infrastructure. So we chose Rosette for the cloud-based deployment. That means that first, the environment was set up very fast, like it's a couple of hours, if I remember properly, where you can start to play with the API on the cloud version. We are not hosting it, and the SLA are really good, as we can see after. How we are using that after, it's on two ways that I think it's always important to chat about. The first one, it's on real time. Like every time that you are getting an e-transfer, it's a real-time action. It's a real-time where we will talk to Rosette. Send an API, call the Rosette API, the name matching API, to try to get the score. This is a real-time interaction. And the second part, it's about batch. So everything that touch to payroll are coming in files, on the different files that we are parsing and calling a lot Rosette at the same time. So it's two different usage. One is maybe a little lower, but in real time, like on the full day. And the second mode, the batch mode, it's a lot of requests at the same time on a very, very short time of a short time windows. In 1 year, if you're going to the next slide, globally, like this is the number of requests that we are sending from a year. And you can see that there are a couple of spikes sometimes. It's, by example, the first two big spike was to backfill all the scores that we had from our old name matching system. And then after, it's very straightforward actually. In terms of latency on 1 year, like the SLA of the name matching system are very high on the basis technology side, and we didn't get any incident in a year, or all the response coming from the service are coming very fast. Like I think we're talking about less than a second actually to get our score. That was the next slide. Why we are looking also in terms, why Rosette also, it's in terms of performance. It's money. Money are important for everybody. And in terms of user experience, we want also our customers to get their money faster as they can. And we don't want them to wait a couple of minutes to get that. So it's also why like the performance of the cloud version was also one of our factors to choose Rosette.
Yeah, and so a quick question on that. So whenever funds were held on your customers, then how long would a manual review process take before? On average?
Before implementing Rosette, like we were talking about one person full time working on reviewing manually all these funds. When I'm saying like one person full time, we are talking about 8 hours per day, included the weekend too, because money is not stopping on the weekend. So it's also working on the weekend and doing that.
Yeah,
sometimes some people can wait like a couple of hours, for example, to get their funds. So in terms of benefits on our side, there are multiple. So the first one is 10% of direct deposits were delayed and reviewing manually before. Now we are at 5%. And also in terms of accuracy, I think we didn't chat too much about accuracy actually of the score, but the 5% that we are getting now are also real issues where the name are really not matching. So we don't have choice to reviewing manually. It simplify a very complex process on our side and reduce the manual work by 25% because a year ago it was a team of 5 people. And because the system is accurate today in terms of name on Rosette, we also started to open a third-party transfers where our customer can get money on Interwise from their family members or some friends. And we can do, as a name matching system is very performant, we can do a very easy distinction between if the funds are coming from the person or someone else actually.
So Vamsi, can I ask a question about that? So they've seen KOHO saw an immediate sort of, basically halving of the delays there. Do you find when you're with your clients, does this get better over time? I imagine you get to a point where you really can't get below this, you can't get to zero, right? But what do you find that they implement it, they get a big bump, and then it sort of continues to go down, or how does it work?
Yeah, so
go ahead.
Yeah, so kind of what we see is you're initially going to see a pretty big improvement right off the bat. And then after that, as we're able to fine tune and enhance it based on their specific needs, or the customer is going to be configuring the different thresholds and the various different how they want those results to perform, it'll continue to go down a little bit more. But eventually, as you mentioned, you will hit a point where it's never going to get to zero, right? There's always going to be some names which are going to need manual review simply because there's just not enough information, or they're too similar to another individual, another organization. But the goal is to improve over time, right? You're going to see that big uplift up front, and then we improve and enhance those results over time until, the goal is to get as close to zero, right? In terms of delaying transactions. The more accurate we're able to be on that end, that's kind of where we're going to end up. But reaching zero is a tall order.
Right. Yeah. And so, Jan, are you finding that has that been your experience?
Yes, I just want to add one more thing actually that is really important, about improving. I think it's a big part also of our work actually. It's to monitor what's going on and improve our system all the time. And I think it's with this kind of system that you can do that every day actually. In terms of experience, we are really happy with this technology, and we will keep going with them on the next couple of years from now.
Yeah, and then kind of to add on to that, Peter, that was kind of one of the main design philosophies as well. Now, Basis has 25 years of experience kind of training some of our models on and stuff. So there's a lot of value you're getting out of the gate as a result. But like Jan mentioned, we're always looking to improve. There's always areas we can be better, different ways and different elements that we can leverage to deliver higher accuracy and better performance for our customers. And that's always one of the main design philosophies that we have top of mind as we kind of go through each release.
Right. Okay. So we're now at the Q&A section of the session. So if you have a question for Jan or Vamsi, please hit the Q&A button and we will do our best to answer. So first one is, what type of identity data do you have available to match payees to KOHO account holders for e-transfers?
Today it's only name matching. It's only first name, last name. And then after there is a couple of control when you create an account at KOHO, because we need to validate your identity with different source of truth.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Next question: how does third-party payments work? That you mentioned was a new service that you added.
Yes. So Yes. So it was a new feature, a new service that we added actually. The code is, the process is kind of the same. The only thing that is very different, it's in terms of velocity, where we are with the name matching system today, we know if it's you or not, so we can change your velocity kind of real time. So by example, if we are getting a third-party payment from someone different than your identity, we can limit what you're doing with how much money you can load or how much money you can spend at Go.
Okay. And next question is, how does your product help mitigate a developed synthetic identity theft? Maybe that's for you, Vamsi.
Yeah, that's a good question. So the name matcher isn't necessarily designed to prevent synthetic identity theft, but there are values in what the product offers to identify is this a real identity or not. And that's kind of what I was mentioning earlier is we are able to leverage more than just the name field and identifying if something is a match or not. So if there's elements of maybe your social security number, their address, place of business, the organization they work for, don't necessarily add up to, they don't match the entity that you're looking at, those are things that you can identify as a risky match or risky individual. And then you're able to add those to your internal watch list to kind of prevent those from being transactions or individuals that kind of slip through the cracks. Now, outside of our name matcher, there's other parts of Rosette that we offer, which are kind of more on the unstructured side, as well as identifying relationships and networks, which kind of help facilitate things like the synthetic identity that you mentioned. The name matchers would be one piece of that puzzle.
Gotcha. Okay. And another question here. Look, this one is for you, Jan. When you brought in Rosette, how long did it take to implement into production, and what types of customization did you need to do?
So it was, if I remember properly, I guess it was 2 people full-time for 2 months, kind of, like in terms of analyzing, finding the partner, doing some tests, and deploying in production. What we also need to know is we are deploying in production every day and multiple times per day at Go today. But globally, I would say like 2%, 2 months on it. It was it was 6 weeks, I guess. 2 person and 2 people in 6 weeks. It went very fast in production. We did a small rollout on that in function of the customer. We were just enabling like the Rosette and name matching system on a couple of users. What type of customization did you need to do? I think this part is maybe more for you on the Rosette side, but I guess I think you explained it before on the slide that there is a lot of customization that you can do. Because there are a lot of names, by example, that you know that they are wrong by default, by example, or there are a couple of words that you can remove by default, and you can do all of this configuration on the Rosette side too.
Yeah, just expanding a little bit on that. So we offer the option to kind of configure your own stop words and override lists, your own custom list for different nicknames or variations that you're seeing from whether it's from your customers, or if there's specific ranked scoring you want to do for specific variants over another. These are all options that we offer to kind of help you kind of get down to that granular level of analysis and get the scores that you want based on the customers and things that are passing through your system.
Okay, if you have a question for Jan or Vamsi, hit the Q&A button. Another one here, if someone is loading using card networks, then where do you get the name from?
From the what? The card network?
If someone's loading using card networks, as I mentioned, it's the Visa network you were talking about. If someone's loading using card networks, where do you get the name from?
The names are coming from Payment Canada. So they're coming from what you set up with your company, for example.
Okay, and that's a good question, actually. What do you find, Vamsi, that the different, because obviously there's lots of different sources that names are going to come in from. You've got wires, you've got ACH here in the US. Obviously, you got the card networks. Do you kind of, does Rosette work like recognizing where the name is coming from, or is it sort of one system for everything?
So you have the flexibility to set it up the way you want, right? So if you want to treat your names coming from one location differently from something else, you can do that. Or if you want everything to go to one location, you can do that as well. For us, the main objective is to really have as much flexibility in terms of how the customers consume it. So you can have your own index for things coming from, let's say, your card accounts versus one from wires versus one from e-transfers, right? And have all those be treated separately, and you can have your own different rules and configs and thresholds and tuning that you want for each of those locations. So for us, we want to support everything and then work with the customers to figure out what works best based on their business and how they're interacting with their customers and how is it going to give them the most, performant and optimal results at the end of the day. But in terms of technical limitations, we don't care whether we're treating it as one location or multiple different indexes.
And do you find that there are certain sources that are more problematic than others?
Depends. There can be some sources that are more problematic than others, depending on the amount of information that you're getting or the amount of data that's present, right? So if there's one data source that you just get more details on, for example, you're getting your address, place of business, residence, and one is only giving you maybe just the name and rough, like zip code, for example, just for example, you're going to have less additional fields to kind of make high quality matches on that data set than something else. So that'd be the only situation where you notice problems. But other than that, like for us, it doesn't matter. Most data sources will function pretty effectively as long as you have enough data to kind of enhance around the name of the organization.
Right. And then what about when you've got like these lot of individuals, independent contractors? They might have a company name, they might have a personal name, and they kind of use them interchangeably. How do you handle that, where it's the same person, but it's two totally different names? Like one's a company name and one's a person.
Yeah, definitely. So you on one of the earlier slides, it covered semantic similarity, and so those are things that over time we're able to kind of even build those custom lists, identifying, hey, these are really the two same things in the context, or there's some, or essentially tie those two things together, right? We're able to do that and configure it as you see it over time. But if you're seeing those being used interchangeably, like you mentioned, the system is able to learn from that, right? If you're identifying this as an organization, you're putting it as a match, you can then identify these as the same individual and kind of do some boosting on some of those specific fields, right? So we do have the flexibility to kind of make those two things matches the same and not be treated as two separate things.
Right, gotcha. Okay, another question. Does Rosette perform sanctions and AML name screening against watch lists?
Yes, we do.
Okay. Okay, and I think that's all we have. That's all we have time for, I think. Or actually, if there's any other, do you want to have any closing comments before we close, Vamsi, Jan?
No, I think, yeah, actually I have a couple of one. I think sometime on the tech side and on the startup, we are the feeling that we can make everything possible faster. And we are trying a lot of time to create our custom solution, creating the name matching, our own name matching system was one of that. And I think we are not looking too much on what's going on out of our company and what's going on. And I think it's a simple problem that can be solved and like a couple of years before by just like taking some time and do some search around what's going on the market and on the technology side too.
Okay, last word, Vamsi.
Yeah, so I know we didn't get a chance to really go into too many of the nitty-gritty details on kind of how some of the underlying processes work, but if anyone's interested in learning more, feel free to reach out to myself or Noel or anyone on our sales team or product team to and we'd be happy to kind of go through and provide you more details on Rosette, Name Matcher, or any of our other products as well.
Okay, just for those who want to get a copy of the slide presentation, everything will be, I think it should be available by the end of the day tomorrow. We will send an email out to everybody who was on the webinar, and actually people who were registered and weren't able to make it will also receive that copy. So with that, thank you, Jan, thank you, Vamsi, thank you for the audience for listening and for your questions, and have a great afternoon, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Have a great afternoon.